So this episode opens with them sleeping out in the woods without a tent or at the very least blankets. I mean, they're sleeping on, what is that, moss? Glimmer is a princess and for some reason she couldn't get her hands on a pillow? What bugs me the most about details like this is that the animators had to storyboard, make outlines, then create the full scene, and at no point throughout this process did anyone think to just make their heads lying on a pillow or add some blankets. Glimmer here is using her cape as one. Why not go the extra mile here? Like, remember back in episode 3 where I mentioned this scene where there was this person cleaning their sword with a leaf? That's not just some random detail or joke. The animators made the conscientious decision to spend time and draw this part of the scene. They chose to use a leaf instead of, I don't know, a rag to show this person cleaning their sword with. Would that have really taken so much effort? For some reason that I can't fathom, they chose to make it a leaf. Just like out here, they chose to have these three sleeping in the woods with no blankets and moss as pillows. Like, how did anyone sleep well in these conditions?
Why is it the one who snores is always the first one to fall asleep?
Well, Bo wasn't snoring when the scene opened. I mean, they easily could have had him, but didn't think to or decided not to.
Need a vacation, which is why we're going to Mysticor.
So they've been traveling to Mysticor all this time, yet Bo is like,
Mysticor? No way!
did Glimmer really keep their destination a secret from both Adora and Bo? Why the latter of the two? In fact, why did neither of them question where they were going?
Mysticor is protected by an invisibility spell.
It's the safest and most peaceful place in all of Etheria.
Not so subtle foreshadowing.
You know I've never relaxed in my life, right?
That smile Adora gives and the way she says this as if it's some sort of accomplishment reminds me of people who say they can go with only 4 hours of sleep at night. It's utterly psychotic thinking, and yet Adora seems to take that fact in with pride. A reminder of her upbringing in the militant horde where she probably had to follow a lot of rigorous training and strict work schedules at a young age, causing this idea that sitting down and doing nothing really isn't something you should be doing.
Mysticor. This is going to be too easy.
See, that's what I meant when I said Bo and Glimmer talking about Mysticor being safe was foreshadowing something. Yeah, of course it's Shadow Weaver's turn to take a crack at nabbing Adora with those little shadow things she summoned a while back.
Another Adora mission.
Again, why is Catra so adamant about getting Adora back? Sure, there was this change later on, but there isn't a transitionary period between her swearing to get her confused friend back from the rebellion, then wishing she just stayed away. Catra just decides she doesn't want Adora back immediately after promising to get her back no matter what?
Now go. I said go!
Catra, why are you so insistent about antagonizing Shadow Weaver? You clearly know that only begets pain. Be a bit more subtle. So, in order to get into Mysticor, you need to jump off a cliff and just hope there's a floating platform there, and you don't break your ankles or legs in the process? Like, is there no better way to enter Mysticor? It's a place where all the mages reside, so maybe this is intended to discourage non-magical visitors. Like, there's clearly a wide gap between the cliff side and these floating platforms, so you have to put some serious effort or literally fall to your death.
So you know, my Aunt Casta can be a lot. I know how to handle her.
Is that my Glimmer?
Ah yes, Casta Spella. Yes, that is how her name is spelled. Can't believe you didn't notice the pun in her name till now. What do you mean that was only me?
And to give my favorite niece and her friends a tour.
Bo and I have had the tour before.
Glimmer seems really adamant about spending time with her aunt.
Alright, Glimmer. Adora hasn't seen it.
I mean, I can sort of get why Casta is really enthusiastic to see her, yet it's also prodding for basic validation. A behavior that was likely common enough to grate down on Glimmer. I mean, I personally haven't met a relative that was just that enthusiastic and forward about me being there to the point where they get in my face like this. But I'm sure someone out there gets where Glimmer is coming from here. Nevertheless, we get a chance to explore a bit of Mysticor and get some lore out of it. I don't have much to say about it. Like the last few locations, it's fine, and I have few issues with it. Mysticor is floating and is safe because of a magic barrier. Yeah, that's sensible enough.
This is Micah. Glimmer looks just like him, you know.
He had a beard.
Okay, well, shave the beard and you'll see the resemblance, Glim.
Glimmer's dad was your brother?
Adora, do you know what aunt means?
Huh, yeah. Being an orphan and child soldier probably means there wasn't much in the ways of real family in the Horde. Besides Catra, that is. Also, did anyone else immediately figure out Lightspinner was Shadow Weaver?
She sought power and complete control above all else.
They mention this person in this manner and have Shadow Weaver's silhouette show up like a second later in the scene. Like they hit you over the head with it and don't like try and hiding it for some reveal later. Also, she's mentioned as some big scar on Mysticora, and they let her statue just sit there and become covered with grime, but my question is, why don't any of the other mages ever thought to just, I don't know, take the statue down? So after that, they take Adora down to the beaches here, so she can relax. So Bo does snore. They just didn't bother having an opening of this episode for some reason.
Can you do something like this to relax in the Horde?
No, we hit things.
This is the little bits of subtle characterization I love to see in a show. Being an avid follower of Horde propaganda since childhood, Adora has developed a strong work ethic of being on the move and doing everything on time for them. To stop like this is just jarring to her subconscious mind. It's quick and simple, yet effective in showing the lingering effects of her upbringing and the mindset instilled upon her to the point she literally cannot remain still without straining against it. So with that not working out as planned, Glimmer decides they need to go further with this.
Come on, we need to show Adora the Steam Grotto.
Also, what is with the close-ups like this? Pull the camera back, please. You'll smack the lens against her face. Well, at least this place seems to work on Adora. You know, until Shadow Weaver shows up.
You brought your sword in here?
It wasn't on Adora when she came in. It was just sitting over there in the middle of the room. What do you think keeping that, say, next to the pool she's in would have been a far better decision?
Shadow Weaver raised me in the Horde.
So Weaver was a mother figure in a sense to Adora,
She taught me how to read and tie my boots and...
but how much of that was actually genuine and how much of that was just in creating a suitable ward?
how to subvert the enemy and be victorious in battle.
I think we all know the answer to that question, even if Adora isn't so certain.
Okay, sure. Mom stuff.
No, commanding officer stuff and mom stuff.
Shadow Weaver's had an effect on both Adora and Catra as their mother figure growing up. There are a few instances where Catra even looks concerned for her. I don't know, perhaps there was some form of affection somewhere. I just don't have any other explanation for why Catra would show any amount of care for Shadow Weaver other than her normal contempt.
She isn't here. It's not possible.
Maybe if you and Bo didn't jinx it before coming here, that might be true. Throughout the first half of this episode, Shadow Weaver has mostly been trying to just gaslight Adora, even mimicking Glimmer and Bo's voices to make her question her own sanity. Using Catra's voice
Did Shadow Weaver send you? What do you think? Shadow Weaver controls us both.
to manipulate Adora's companionship with her before tricking her and destroying Mysticora memory crystals.
Your friend has destroyed 1,000 years worth of sacred writing.
Casta, you guys just left these things floating around in an unsealed room. This was bound to happen. Honestly, Casta Spella is a fine side character. She really doesn't come on as anything like bad. Perhaps just a bit too assertive about spending time with family. Family that, granted, doesn't seem to come by often or write back to her, so I guess that is kind of understandable. Shadow Weaver then tries disguising herself as Glimmer, then Bo to further gaslight Adora into leaving Mysticora, and even springs a trap to try and interrupt the ceremony meant to cloak the place. She really wants to multitask here, even though Adora has been her #1 priority for a while. All this coming to a head in this final showdown between the two, mostly with words.
They don't understand you. They want to use you for your strength.
More gaslighting
They'll never accept you. Not like I do.
and emotional manipulation. Adora cannot become She-ra at the moment. We learned later that her powers is somewhat connected to her emotions. The disoriented state she finds herself in leaves her helpless as her quote-unquote mother continues to chip at her emotional state.
They've been kind to me, something you never were.
But Adora is able to see right through it all. Having gained an expanded worldview for her time outside the Fright Zone, she's able to tell exactly who's the one been trying to use her. Adora is able to summon a shield from her sword, because like I said, her powers are partially based on her emotions, and defense was present for her and her friends. Taking a stand against Shadow Weaver, who's been emotionally manipulating and gaslighting her likely her entire life, and is able to complete the eclipse ceremony and blast Shadow Weaver right out there.
Yeah, I think I'm finally okay. She's gone.
This whole thing is great. We get a glimpse of what Adora and Catra had to deal with growing up, and come to understand how their different mindsets led them to who they are now. Adora, falling to basically everything into her perspective, was able to shift, allowing her to break away and recognizing her upbringing for what it was. Catra really just understanding the gaslighting and terrible environment as is, so he just ended up snarking as a defense, and mainly didn't take her test too seriously like Adora, because the latter knew the Horde really wasn't trying to aid Etheria, and mainly rode along with it because, well, she just wanted to be with Adora, and believed that she and Adora would end up powerful enough to, quote-unquote, run things at some point, and then they wouldn't have to worry about Shadow Weaver. This whole thing is important for trying to understand how Adora and Catra turned out the way that they did, and why the two would end up going down their paths.
You've been going about this the wrong way. You have to go for the heart.
I know, Catra really wasn't there to see what Weaver was doing, but she totally identified a weak spot and tried using Glimmer and Bow against Adora. So that was episode 7 of Overanalyzing She-ra. If you like this video and want to see more, then hit that thumbs up and the subscribe button, then bell to get notifications about the next episode. I'll be trying to update this series every Thursday, so please share with other fans and check out my channel for my video essays and music analysis videos in the meantime. You might find them enjoyable as well.